Welcome to the complete walkthrough of my largest LEGO Star Wars MOC ever, the Battle for Yerbana City. Welcome back to Mechanics, guys, and that's right, today we are taking a complete and detailed walkthrough of the finished build. You know, we started this project a little over 3 months ago on 4 large 48 by 48 base plates, and after 9 episodes, we have finally reached the finale, and I just cannot be more excited to show you the final build. So I hope you're up for a story because I've got one to tell you with this MOC. Make sure you stick around to the end because I really think you're going to like what I do with the battle scene. I've broken the finale down into 3 sections: the backstory, the occupation, and the liberation. So during the occupation section, I'm going to walk you through the landscape, the terrain, the buildings, the inhabitants, and let you see a little bit of Yerbana right before the 501st arrive onto the scene for the battle. During the liberation portion of this MOC showcase, I'll put the 501st onto the battlefield and we'll take a look at the battle as the 501st work to defeat the Separatists and begin the process of liberating Yerbana. But first, I think we need a little context to the MOC, so I'm going to provide you just a little bit of backstory. So Yerbana is a planet located in the Outer Rim territories, and in 19 BBY, during the Outer Rim sieges of the Clone Wars between the Republic and Confederacy of Independent Systems, there was a battle fought by the 501st Legion and 212th Attack Battalion versus a Separatist droid army. The battle was fought on a large bridge, as you saw in Season 7, Episode 9 of the Clone Wars, and resulted in a victory for the Republic. That's where our MOC enters the story, because right after the victory on the bridge, the 501st and 212th Attack Battalion were tasked to clean up any remaining Separatist forces on Yerbana in an effort to liberate Yerbana. What they don't realize is that the Separatist forces have been working with a group of mercenaries to strip Yerbana of its resources in a mining operation just outside of Yerbana City. And that's what we're going to take a look at right now. Here it is, guys. Here is the completed occupation portion of the MOC. And I still have the liberation portion to show you, and that's coming up. But this is the scene right before the 501st Clone Legion arrives and right after the bridge scene that we see in Season 7, Episode 9 of the Clone Wars. And, the source material that I used for this MOC is this image right here, and we see the bridge on the right-hand side where the battle took place, but I was more interested in the left-hand side of the picture where we see some of the terrain, some of the mountain scapes, as well as some of the cityscape, and there's not a whole lot we know about Yerbana. I mean, the planet was made for that episode of the Clone Wars, and there's just not a lot about it. We know it's industrial. We know that, it's mountainous, there's oceans, it's kind of wet, there's a lot of rain, there's a lot of foliage and things like that, but we don't know much about the city itself or its inhabitants outside of the fact that they're human. So there was a lot of creative liberty, and what I decided to go with and the way that I pictured Yerbana is I just envisioned it being a little bit more ancient and older with its architecture, as we kind of see in these buildings with the cone shape. So I wanted to make sure I captured that in this building over here and in the streets as well, and the buildings and, this market that I have over here, and, the roads and things like that. but it's also industrial and is kind of being modernized. So I wanted to make sure I captured that as well, like in these buildings here and in this building over here. So as you see in the picture, we have some mountains like I have right here. We have a little bit of the city like we have here, and then we have the cliff, as you kind of see the cliff edge here. So let's take a closer look at this mock. So I first started with the cliff edge here, and I didn't want to go too high because that was just going to be a whole lot of bricks. So I just did the top edge of the cliff, and I used a snot technique as well as a layering technique to get the cliff edge effect. And then I used these, black tiles to represent and define that cliff edge. And I think it does a pretty good job, and it really places, the scene up on top of a cliff. I used a lot of olive, plates to represent grass. And I know there's a lot of studs, but I kind of like that and chose to do that because I wanted it to look a little bit more rough. And I wanted there to be some clear definition with the road here using this, layering technique with plates, as well as some definition between these bald patches that are worked in here to the front of the mock and the cliff edge using that layering technique as well. And so I added some different foliage onto the mock and some different rock elements just to break it up a little bit and to provide, some texture to the landscape. We have a few dwarf spider droids, and I've put credit to the original designer down in the description. We've got some B1 battle droids here going out on patrol, and then over here we have a group of B1 battle droids returning from patrol. This road technique is something that I was really happy with and just had a lot of fun making. It does use a plate technique where it requires 3 layers of plates to achieve, and you kind of shape the road using these smaller wedge plates, which I really like the way that turned out and how it kind of winds into Yerbana. You have to imagine that Yerbana City extends far out here as well, and this operation is just on the outskirts. But I mixed in some different colors to provide some texture, some tiles, as well as studs. And then the road here is supposed to kind of look like it's breaking apart as it, comes out of the city. So we have a tighter pattern of cobblestone there that gets looser and just kind of breaks apart as it leaves the city and goes out to these dirt sections. This mountain was quite the undertaking, and I kind of procrastinated in the middle of the series when it came time to build this because I knew just how much work was going to have to go into it. But it's a mixture of a lot of different build techniques. I have these wedge plates being stacked on top of each other down here, and I really like the way that came out. We have some snot technique mixed in there, as well as just some standard, slope bricks. And all in all, the combination of everything together, I believe gave this a really good, shape, as we're a little bit more rounded here at the bottom, and then a little bit more jagged as we go up. And then you also have to kind of imagine that this is just kind of like a lower section of the mountain and that it continues up higher over here. And it was a suggestion, in the comments of one of the episodes to add this bunker into the mock. And I thought that was a great idea. I thought it made the mountain a bit more interesting and could add a little bit more to the story here as a challenge to the 501st as they come to attack this operation. These here are the Mercenaries working with the Separatists, and they're a total fiction character. I just made them up. I was like, why not? I wanted to make something cool and just add to the story and make the mock more interesting. So I created these Mercenaries and put them into the story. They're custom made. This body here is actually from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme. And then these guys here, these are actually, space police. And I swapped the heads out for just some different Lego heads. The helmets here are custom from Firestar Toys, and these weapons are custom from Clone Army Customs. Here's our mine entrance into the side of the mountain, and we have our, forced labor, which these are the human inhabitants of Yerbana, and the mercenaries are actually forcing them to mine the minerals out of Yerbana, but these are actually Tusken Raider bodies. I swapped out the hands, swapped out the heads, added a different hairpiece on there, and just made them, or tried to make them, look aged. I thought the Tusken Raider bodies did a really good job of that, so I really like the way that these guys turned out. They have their pickaxes, they have their lanterns, and they're headed into the mine to pull out the resources. This guy's shoveling resources into, the bucket, to where this guy's bringing it up here so it can be burned down and turned into fuel. And then we have our mercenaries here, which are watching over everything and kind of forcing this operation and forcing these guys into labor as far as extracting those minerals. This is the refinery here, which was originally supposed to be a bigger factory, but when I got into the build here and I started seeing how this was all working out, I just thought anything bigger would block this back here and take away from the Moc. So I went with an open concept refinery, and that's what the mercenaries are operating here. And basically the way that it works is the minerals are mined from here. They're brought up the stairs over here and dumped here. And then, this crane arm swings around, picks up the pieces, brings it over here, drops it into this cauldron where it's boiled down, and then is brought up into these tanks and kind of refined into fuel that goes out here into this fuel tank, and there's a spout down there that they can get the fuel out of. So that's really what they're doing here on Yerbana, is they're burning down all of the minerals and resources from Yerbana and turning that into fuel for the Separatist army. So a lot of different details in here. We've got some different printed computer pieces on there, some greebling around the sides, some different pipes and different cylinders and things bringing this together. Really thought that this was pretty cool with the fire pieces in here. Would have been nice to put some lights in there, but maybe I'll start getting into lights here in some upcoming mocks. And just a lot of different details worked into this. I wanted to make it as interesting as I could, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. These droid arms are such useful pieces. I'm really glad I got a bunch of those pieces. So that's the refinery. This fence here was a really fun build. The fence is placed here to protect people from falling down into this crater, which was something else that I was really happy to do, is just to add some different elevations, as you see here with these two higher elevations, but then also to go down into the Moc as well with a lower elevation. That was a lot of fun to make earlier in the build series. Then we have this fence here, which is another good use of droid arms, and I'm really happy with how old that fence looks, because it fits the feel of this older Yerbana section here. This little market shop here slash droid service center is one of my favorite little parts of the Moc. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Just all the little details that went into this, the cloth piece, the droid arms holding the different poles together, the bottles in the back and all the different trinkets that are being sold, as well as some of the food elements in here. Just really cool overall. The different, kind of tools in here. This service droid is super awesome. I really had a good time putting him together. And then we have a little droid squad here with the service droid, doing some work on these two droids here. This area of the Moc right here was a little bit of a challenge because the sidewalk and the road were kind of blending in together. So I added this, strip of grass down the center here to help create some division between the two. But I really like this sidewalk technique that I found on Instagram and put into the Moc here. I think that looks, really, really cool. And then this cobblestone road is actually a snot technique. So that's actually a snot set of bricks laid into the floor of the Moc there. Yerbana being a city, I wanted to add some homes into the Moc. I'd actually planned on having more buildings than what's actually here, but I quickly realized there wasn't as much real estate here as I thought there was. But I'm glad that I was able to get a few buildings in here. I think the doors look pretty cool, and the roof technique, I really like the way that just adds a more aged feel to these row homes, along with the different, small details in the walls with the, masonry brick pieces, the reddish brown brick pieces, and the arches used for the doors and windows. All in all, I think that helps to give it that more ancient and older feel. Throughout the build series, I always had this little piece of real estate back here that I wasn't exactly sure what to do with, but there was always this idea of a watchtower, so that's exactly what I built here. And I used a lot of different pieces to put, some detail to this. It's a little bit oddly shaped just because of the space it had to fit into, but all in all, I'm happy with it, and I think it turned out pretty interesting looking. I like a lot of the different details, especially with this welder piece here, and then the pieces that were used for the lights. They kind of articulate and move around, which is pretty cool. And then we have our sirens up here to let everybody know when the 501st arrives, and then providing some, coverage and protection over the operation here. We have a sniper up in the tower, kind of overlooking everything, as well as a battle droid back there as well. The last piece we have to cover here in the occupation section of this finale is the temple here, which was actually the first building that I placed into the MOC. And it was my first time using a lot of these different techniques that you see in the walls there, as far as the masonry brick and, mixing in some different pieces to make it look weathered and old. And, we added, some elements in here to provide some culture and history to Yerbana. So this is kind of like the tribal sign that they have there, and, some different colors to add, just some art and just culture to this building overall. And up top here, we have a little bit of a satellite system here, working as communications for the Separatists and the Mercenaries. But the idea was to capture the architecture of Yerbana that we saw in the source material. And then I also just had this idea that the Mercenaries were working to kind of modernize, Yerbana, and kind of convert it into something that would work for them. And so this was their conversion of a section of this temple here. And I just worked some details into that to kind of modernize it, make it look a little bit more, interesting, with some different greebling techniques and piping on there as well. So as the story goes, this is the occupation taking place right now, where the Mercenaries and the Separatists are occupying Yerbana, forcing their inhabitants into forced labor to mine the minerals out of the mountain here to be refined in the refinery and boiled down into fuel for the Separatist army. And this patrol right here is actually returning from the bridge to report to the head honchos back here that the 501st is on their way. So now it's time to grab our 501st and to have the liberation. Well, here it is, guys. Here is the battle for Yerbana City, and I just could not be more excited to share the liberation section of this MOC with you. And I had so much fun placing these minifigures into the battle because it really brought this MOC to life for me. And these minifigures really pulled this entire mock together and really just brought the story out of the entire thing. And one of the things I had the most fun with was placing each individual minifigure and just getting a feel for how they were part of this bigger story here and how their individual placement just meant so much to how the story was unfolding. So let's go ahead and just take a closer look at that story. Let's start off here with this custom Captain Rex from Clone Army Customs. He's leading the charge here with his squad coming down the road and knocking out that patrol of droids who were reporting that the 501st was on their way. And this is actually one of the more fun poses I've done in the mock here, with this trooper kind of knocking out this B1 droid with his rifle, which yeah, is a pretty cool pose. And I was really happy that I decided to include the Clone Wars version of Anakin Skywalker into the mock. It just really feels like a must-have given the backstory here of Yerbana and the fact that this mock is based on Season 7, Episode 9 of the Clone Wars. But yeah, he's in position right there to knock out the main mercenary. Before Captain Rex and his squad were able to take out that patrol, they did get the word out that the 501st were on their way, and that gave the opportunity for these B1 battle droids to kind of push up in response, but they are going to be met with a fury by this charging onslaught of 501st right here. And these are custom ATRTs that I built, and I just really love this design. I put a link down in the description if you want to check out how to build those. But that design to me is just really sleek, and I love the posability of it. You can see that right here as this ATRT is kind of smashing down on this dwarf spider droid right there. So that's a really cool pose. We've got this jet trooper right here who's launched himself up into the air and over top of this dwarf spider droid right here, and he is ready to rain some pain down on this group of droids. Some cool poses in here. This helmet right here is custom by Clone Army Customs right there as well. That's a 501st Lieutenant. All the weapons you see in the mock are custom from Clone Army Customs as well. But this little front of B1 droids is experiencing some pretty heavy losses here as the 501st is pelting them. And to their surprise, the 501st was smart and kind of snuck up behind them on the side of this cliff here as this lieutenant helps up his trooper up the side of that cliff as they push forward down the center of this mock, where this trooper has taken out 2 or 3 droids right there. One of my favorite sections of the mock is this little ditch right here, and we have a lieutenant down there who's throwing his blaster to the side to aid this lady who's jumping for cover down in this ditch. And then probably my favorite pose of the entire mock is this trooper right here who's jumping over this fence. That just turned out really cool, and I just love the way his legs are kind of split as he's jumping over the fence right there. We knew that this bunker was going to be trouble for the 501st given the angle it has on this open space here that the 501st is charging down. So it's really important that this squad up here takes that bunker out. And that's exactly what they're working to do. So we got a guy down here kind of taking cover, looking up, give us some direction to these guys up here who are getting ready to drop a charge inside there and take out that bunker right there. And then we have a couple of jet troopers who are launching themselves off the top of this mountain right here to join the fight, with a lieutenant back there giving some direction and another dude just kind of getting himself into position. Our guy with his cart has decided to ditch his cart and run for cover, so he's got the same idea as this lady here as he looks to jump over that fence and get down there with that lieutenant right there for cover. And our market lady here has kind of ducked herself down behind her box there, and she's getting some cover for herself. Something that the 501st were not counting on were these B2 super battle droids being inside that temple. And they've come out to join the fight, and they're ready to cause some trouble, except for right time, right place. We've got a 501st trooper right here with a rocket launcher who's taking aim right now to knock those B2 super battle droids out. Another area of potential trouble for the 501st is this Watchtower right here with this sniper. So they've got to take him out. And so they've sent the jet trooper who's on his way up there, but we also have a clone trooper back here who's setting a charge to the leg here that's looking to knock this tower down. A good strategy if you want to defeat your enemy is to take out their communications, and that's exactly what this jet trooper is looking to do. So he's flown himself to the top of the temple and he's going to take out the communications, which is going to cause some big trouble for the Separatists and the Mercenaries on this battlefield. Something else that I think adds a lot of character to this MOC, along with Anakin Skywalker and Captain Rex, is the inclusion of the Clone Wars version of Obi-Wan Kenobi and 2 of his 212th troopers. So they're charging through the back of the MOC here, and it looks like that right there is going to seal the deal for the Republic. As these laborers kind of jump for cover to get out of the way. We've got Obi-Wan using the Force to knock these mercenaries back, and yeah, they're in for a whole lot of trouble right there. So I'm really glad that I included Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker into the MOC. I just wanted to say thank you to every person who has liked, commented, shared, or subscribed to any video within this build series. I greatly appreciate your support. It really makes doing things like this that much more worth it. I have a lot of fun doing this, and being able to share it with you and having you be part of this journey and this experience and this build as well, it's awesome. So thank you so much for being part of this. And look guys, I'm just getting started, right? I'm just getting started, and I learned so much in this build. I cannot wait to apply it in the future builds. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, you want to be part of this community and you want to see what comes next, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if you want to help other people find this video, I would greatly appreciate you hitting the like button. So guys, this is it. This is the end of the battle for Yerbana City, but it's just the beginning of more to come. So I'll see you in the next build.